The first use check is an operating procedure which is designed to ensure that whilst the vehicle is in service, it's operated in a roadworthy condition. The driver's inspection forms part of the maintenance procedure. The driver has a legal obligation to make sure that whilst the vehicle is in his use, that it's in a roadworthy and safe condition. Enforcement of that is carried out by the Traffic Commissioner and the enforcement bodies. Predominantly that's the police and VOSA. They don't only stop your vehicle at the side of the road, they can come onto site, they can check your documentation, covering things like driver's hours, the maintenance of the vehicle, defect cards. If the defect found is such that VOSA feel that you as a driver should have found it on your inspection, they can issue the most serious of prohibitions, and this is an S-marked prohibition, which is to VOSA a signification that there's a failure in the company's maintenance procedures, and they will take that vehicle out of service, and they'll prosecute you, and they'll fine you, and ultimately that could result in the driver losing his job. And it's all to make sure that that vehicle, whilst in operation, is safe and not a danger to anyone, including you as a driver. We don't expect the driver to carry out an inspection in the same way that we would expect an inspector in the workshop. The vehicle inspector in the workshop will be more involved in the underside, working in the engine bay. We don't expect the driver to do that. The driver is carrying out a visual check to ensure that everything's working that should be working, there's nothing loose, and there's no damage to the vehicle that could injure anyone. You may have to tap a body panel to make sure it's not loose, because you won't pick that up unless you do touch it. But no one's saying you've got to lift panels and check inside engine bays. That's for someone else to do. Sufficient time will be allocated for this check, and this will have been negotiated locally with your trade union and management. The operating procedure is made up of 3 parts. The first part is the health and safety of the driver when he carries out the inspection of his vehicle. The second part is the inspection of the vehicle, looking at the individual items and the flow of that inspection to ensure the vehicle is inspected thoroughly by the driver as he walks around it. And thirdly, we're going to look at defect reporting systems. Health and safety is paramount when carrying out a first use check. The bus parking area is a very dangerous environment, and there are a few simple points you must remember. You must make sure that at all times he's wearing his reflective jacket and PPE. In order that he can be seen, he makes sure he puts on his 4-way flashers so that other people know that the vehicle is undergoing a first use check. If he is carrying out an external check of his vehicle, he should ensure his engine is switched off. He will require adequate space to carry out his inspection of the vehicle. There may be other traffic in the vicinity. He mustn't, for instance, go around the rear of the vehicle if another vehicle's running behind him. Some sites have designated areas for inspecting vehicles where there's better lighting, and this will make it much easier and safer for the driver. If you're on a site where you don't have that facility, then you must take extra care. For early morning check-ins, especially in the winter, you need to make sure you've got with you a torch and high visibility jacket when you're doing that outside check. And lastly, if a driver comes across a vehicle with a red steering wheel cover or an unfit for service sticker in the screen, he shouldn't carry out a first use check. He should seek advice from his supervisor or the workshop.
The subsequent demonstration is intended to highlight the areas that are required to be checked in accordance with the recommendations laid down by VOSA. Please note that some areas have been emphasised and extended for filming purposes, and as such are not representative of the actual time needed to complete a pre-service check. Begin your driver inspection by entering the cab area and switching on the hazard lights. This indicates to anyone else near you that an inspection is being undertaken. Check that the handbrake is on and that the gear selection is in neutral. Then start the engine, ensuring not to rev it for at least 30 seconds to prevent engine damage. Then switch all interior lights on. Check the backlighting of the speedometer, tachograph and gauges, and check that they're all working correctly. Check all warning lights, including the drive green light, are functioning, and be sure to verify that the ABS light does not remain illuminated, which would indicate a fault. To check the air gauges are functioning correctly, begin by repeatedly pressing the foot brake to deplete air from the air storage system. Listen for the low air warning buzzer, and look to see the warning lamp illuminates at about 4 bar, or in the red section on the air gauge. Then build up the pressure and listen for any leaks in the system. The air should stop building around 8 to 10 bar, or in the green section, depending on the vehicle. Next, run through all driver controls. Check the operation of the horn, the indicators, the windscreen wipers and washers, and the windscreen demisters. Check that the CCTV systems are functioning correctly, and for the operation of the periscope, if fitted. Open and close the passenger entrance using the cab controls. And operate the kneel system, if fitted, to ensure it functions correctly. Check that the driver's seat is in good order, secure, and will not move accidentally during service. Adjust the horizontal and vertical movement of the seat to ensure both are working correctly. Check to see that pedals are not obstructed, and inspect the tread to make sure it is in good order and free from fuel and oil contamination. Check the steering wheel adjusts correctly, is in good condition, and is secure. Check that the driver's side window opens and closes properly, and that the roller blinds do the same. Verify that the destination equipment functions correctly. Check the security of the ticket machine, the guard, and the driver's door. Align the mirrors to give good visibility on the interior and down both exterior sides of the vehicle. Where a seatbelt is fitted, this should also be inspected. Check that there is no fraying of the belt webbing, and confirm it locks and releases with the clasp. If the vehicle is fitted with a first aid kit, then check to see it is present and clearly accessible. This completes the cab inspection. Next, switch off the engine, but leave the ignition, hazard lamps, and internal lighting on.
You need to spend time looking for defects within the cab area. It's your work area, and you need to make sure it's going to be a comfortable one and a safe one. There's a significant amount of potential for things to go wrong. Areas such as the screen, the controls, the dash itself. Make sure you have a thorough check and make sure you don't miss anything.
Exit the cab area and begin the interior inspection. Do not attempt to inspect both sides of the vehicle at the same time, as it is easy to miss defects this way. Instead, observe the correct flow for inspection by moving up the near side of the vehicle first, then across the back, before returning down the off side. As you move through the saloon, check to verify the fire extinguisher is in place and accessible, and look to see that the needle is within the green area. Check all handrails for security and sharp edges. Operate all bell pushes to ensure correct operation, and make a visual check of the stopping sign. Inspect interior bodywork for loose panels or trim, and any wet or offensive graffiti. Check that windows are not obstructed, are undamaged and secure, and that all markings are in place. Check the condition of the floor for raised edges likely to trip or cause injury to passengers, particularly looking out for insecure floor traps and protruding securing screws. Check all seats and seat frames are present, clean, free from graffiti and damage, and are secure, particularly looking out for sharp edges that could cause injury. Do not place your hand between seat cushions or in other blind spots where there is a potential for sharp objects to be hidden. Instead, feel for any protrusions on the seat cover and back only. Where vehicles are fitted with passenger seat belts, check that there is no fraying of the belt webbing and that they lock in place. Check that emergency brake glass hammers are in place where needed, the method of operation is clear, and that the emergency exit is also marked clearly. Open the emergency exit door from the inside and listen for the warning device operating in the cab. Check to see the exit is not obstructed and is free from trip hazards. This can also be checked when you make the external inspection. Check that the method of operation is visible close to the opening controls. If the vehicle has a top deck, then follow the same procedure as for the lower deck, ensuring that all emergency exits open fully and are clearly marked.
This is an area where a person's paid to travel, and you need to make sure that person's going to be safe. You need to be aware of shops that may be potential hazards, any graffiti that may be offensive. You also need to be aware of potential trip hazards. The comfort of the passenger is important at all times.
With the interior inspection complete, move to the passenger entrance and check the entrance platform light is working. Operate the ramp or lift and ensure the unit fully engages in the open position. Move to the cab and check the ramp interlock functions correctly and that the warning buzzer or light is working. Ensure ramp handles and edges do not offer a trip hazard. Continue with the exterior checks by observing the correct flow for inspection, starting at the near side front of the vehicle and moving in a clockwise direction. Check the operator's license is in place and that the tax disc is valid. Check the near side mirror for security of the mirror head and arm, and make sure the arm is correctly adjusted in line with the first group instructions to prevent collision. Check to see that all front lights are secure, clean and function correctly, and that all bodywork is secure and free from damage. Check to see that the registration plate is also secure and is clearly legible. Check the security and the condition of the wiper arms and blades. Continue working your way clockwise around the vehicle and listen out for any air leaks from the air storage system. Check to see the offside repeater indicator is working and is secure. Inspect all tyres and wheels for visible damage, including cuts on the tyre wall. Look at each wheel nut to ensure that none are loose or missing, and look to see for signs of tyre underinflation. Continue down to the emergency exit door. Check to see it opens more than 90 degrees, and that the method of opening is visible from the outside. Check both fuel and AdBlue caps are in place and secure, and there are no signs of leaks. Move to the rear of the vehicle, taking care to see that no vehicles are running close behind. Check the coolant filler is also in place and secure. Where the vehicle is fitted with a sight glass, check that the level is correct. If there is someone available to assist you, then check the correct operation of lights at the rear of the vehicle. Otherwise, make these checks before you leave sight. Check also that the registration plate illuminates correctly and is legible. Move down the near side of the vehicle following the same procedure as for the offside. Where vehicles are fitted with wheel nut indicators, then check to see these are aligned. If rick clips are fitted, then check that they are all present and that each locking arm is firmly in place. This image shows a rick clip that is insecure. Look for other telltales on the wheel, such as oil leaks, and check to see there is no bulge on the outer tyre, as this may indicate an underinflated inner tyre. Be sure to check items exclusive to the near side, like the legal lettering and any destination boards. Then complete the clockwise flow by returning to the passenger entrance. At the entrance, operate the passenger emergency door controls and look to see that the method of operation is clearly marked. Finally, move back into the driver's cab and check the air gauges have not dropped air pressure.
There will be things that you can't immediately check, and they're things like leaks. When you've done your walk round check, pull your vehicle forward. If you've got a leak, whether it be fuel, oil, water or effluent, there will be a telltale. There will be checks that you need to carry out before leaving site. Steering checks, braking checks, emissions checks, and just general control of your vehicle. Some sites will have areas specifically set up. You can check things like your brake lights and your emissions from your exhaust system. If you haven't got those areas, then you need to get someone just to check that for you. First use checking is expected to be done whenever the driver has got an opportunity to look at his vehicle. It is more formal at the start of his day, where he's expected to carry out a full inspection, but as soon as you take that vehicle into service, you should be constantly aware of any defects you actually feel and experience through the driving of the vehicle. When carrying out a first use check, just ask yourself these questions. Is everything working on that vehicle? Is there anything missing? Is there anything that's not secure? Is there anything apparent that would cause a nuisance? Is there anything apparent that would cause an injury to a passenger or yourself? And finally, whilst driving the vehicle, are you in proper control of it? And don't forget, if VOSA find a fault that can be linked back to the driver, it's not just first group that pay the bill, the driver will too, and that could be points on his licence and ultimately the loss of his licence and a financial penalty as well. If there's a defect on it, you must find it. It's your responsibility at the end of the day when you take that vehicle on the road. The first use check is an identification of how professional the driver is. The driver that does his first use check correctly is the driver that is safe whilst out at work, that has a roadworthy vehicle that's going to remain in service without breaking down, is a safe environment whilst it's in service.
There are several different methods of defect reporting currently in use. Some depots are using the Wayfarer system, but the majority are using the defect card. There are a number of vehicle-specific defect cards in use. Therefore, it is important that the correct card is used to ensure a thorough check is completed. The most common is the multi-use card. A single defect card will be issued to each vehicle at the start of the traffic day, irrespective of the status of the vehicle. This card must be displayed in the vehicle defect card holder at all times whilst in operation. The person carrying out the pre-service check will enter their name, wage number, route and duty number in the boxes provided at the top of the defect card, and also ensure that the correct depot, fleet number and date has been entered. Dedicated vehicle checkers should indicate in the duty column that they are the checker. For each check item on the list, enter a tick if no defect is apparent, a cross if a defect is noted, or mark NA if not applicable. This will clearly indicate that each area has been examined. Any defects must be recorded on the reverse, indicating the driver number in the first box, together with a clear indication of the defect or symptom in the second box. This card must then be placed in its holder. If no defects are present during the driver's time with the bus, the driver must enter None in the defect box on the reverse side of the card, adjacent to their driver number of the day. Subsequent drivers must add their name, wage number, duty and route number to the list on the front of the card. Any defects noted during their duty must be entered on the reverse side, indicating their driver number. If a defect is found that in the driver's view may affect the roadworthiness of the vehicle, then he or she should seek advice at the earliest opportunity. Every opportunity must be taken to check the vehicle for defects that may be safety related, and a full pre-service check must be carried out if the defect card has been removed from the vehicle, or where the vehicle has undergone a minimum of 30 minutes operational stand-down time. The standard multi-use card allows for several vehicle checks to be carried out and recorded on the one card during the course of the operational day. The driver or checker carrying this out should note their name, number at the top of the column and tick the checklist whilst carrying out a further check.
It is a legal obligation that the defect card is completed correctly, and therefore every aspect should be filled in. Regularly on checks we find that drivers miss out their route numbers, they don't even complete their names section correctly. You must complete every aspect of that card. It's important the defect card is legible so that when someone else comes along to rectify the fault, they can actually read the full defect and they know what they've got to look for when they go and repair that vehicle. You must ensure before you take the vehicle into service, you put that card into its holder. And by entering it into its holder, you take it from unfit for service to fit for service. Remember, if you are pulled up by VOSA on a roadside check, it's important to be polite and as helpful as possible. They will issue you with some paperwork. Now that might be a prohibition or it might just be paperwork to inform the company that you've been stopped. It is important when you're issued with that paperwork that you hand that over at your earliest opportunity, either to the workshop or to someone senior within operations that are recognised, either supervisor or manager.
I've just watched the DVD you have, and I believe it is an essential tool with carrying out the walk-around check. And this has been endorsed by ourselves, the National Committee, myself and Mick Dowd's the chair. Take this out into your workplace and show everybody the importance of the walk-around check. We've looked at SOPs in written form, but I'm sure you must agree, watching the DVD, highlighting what is required is very important. It shows the check done in a slow motion so you can see what is expected by VOSA. And this is a very valuable tool so everyone can do their job correctly.